welcome to the video. Today we're going to explore doGet function with a Google AppScript web app. So we're going to look at two different URLs and how to use them and the differences between the two. All right, let's go. So we've got a folder. We're going to create a new Google AppScript file. This AppScript file is going to be what we serve when somebody goes to the URL. Okay, so first thing we're going to do with this AppScript file is define a doGet function. The naming convention here is really important. It's got to be just like that. And what we're going to do is when somebody goes to the URL in their browser is going to be served whatever the return value is of this doGet function. So what we are going to do is let's just define a variable called returned HTML. And this is going to be utilizing the HTML service dot create HTML output. Inside of the parentheses here, the argument is just raw HTML, whatever we would like. Perfect. And then we're going to just return this. So now we have our function. This function is going to get called when a user goes to the URL in their browser. Now we don't have the URL just yet, so we're going to get that in this next step. But when they do go to the URL in their browser, it's going to send a GET request. It's going to execute this doGet function. It's going to run the function. It's going to return to the browser to serve whatever this returned value is. So how we deploy this is we need to make a new deployment. We're going to click on this, new deployment, since this is the first time we're doing this. Click the cogs up here, web app. We're going to add a description here, just say this is the first version, first iteration through this. And we're going to leave these two settings alone for now. It's going to default to the most secure version of this, the most secure settings, which is executing as the owner of the script file. And the people that have access is only the owner. So even if somebody else were able to get this URL that it's about to generate, they wouldn't be able to do anything with it. We're going to hit deploy. And now we have our URL. At the end of this URL, we can see that it ends with an exec, E-X-E-C. So that is important. I'm going to touch on that in just a moment. Let's click that and go to this location. So our browser went to the URL. What happened was this script file ran this function and said, whatever this returns, I'm going to give it to the browser. So what it returned was evaluated HTML code, and now we got this right here. If I were to make a change to the doGet function, we're going to hit save. We then go back to our URL and refresh. Absolutely nothing changes because this is a static version that is being used when we go to the exec URL. Now, we can go to a different URL that's meant for development. How we do that is we go to deploy, test deployments, and we have this URL right here. Now this one ends in dev, D-E-V, dev. So this one is always going to give us what's the current state of the script file. Any changes are going to be live. Let's go to this URL. And here it serves back the most updated version of our script file. And let's test that here. for one more third change. We go to our dev, refresh. It's going to go out and regrab. We're going to regrab from the doGet function, and it's going to return the value of the most updated version. So as long as it's saved, it's going to be reflected in our dev URL. So this is great for development. Once we get this to how we want it, and once we get it to look how we want it, to get the changes to reflect on our exec URL, we need to deploy a new version. So we go to Manage Deployments. This is the deployment we're on, the one with the description first version. The way that we get a next version to be served when someone goes to this URL in their browser is we need to update the version. We go to Edit, and on the version selection, we select New Version. Now we can add a description, which is optional. Descriptions are optional. Okay, in here, we can also change these settings too, but we're going to leave them the same as it is for now. We'll hit deploy. It's updating the version, and we hit done. Now, if we go back to our exec, this one was not updating before, but if we hit refresh now, it's going to grab that new version, and now it will show us this. This is the most up-to-date version. We redeployed, we updated the version here, and now that fresh version is reflected in we go to our exec URL. Now let's talk about the settings in our deployment. If we go to Manage Deployments, and we were to want to update the version, let's say we just kept the code the same, but we wanted to change these two settings. So execute as and who has access. So execute as, this is the setting for whose account is going to be the effective user for any of the back-end functions that happen. Execute as me, and then there's execute as the user accessing the web app. When somebody runs a function in the web app, what this means is that whoever accesses the web app, for instance, in my browser, I'm logged in as hello@alanapptools.com. This is our anonymous account. This is the account that is logged in. That would be the account, if this setting is set, that would be the account that is the effective user. Now, if I were logged into another account and I were to go to this URL, that user would be the effective user. Whoever is accessing the web app, that is the effective user of all of the permissions of this app script file. That's what execute as means. Now, very important here, who has access to this? If we set this as only myself, meaning only the user who is the effective user of the script file, if we set this who has access to anyone within Allen App Tools, we can set it to be domain specific. So anybody in my umbrella organization, my domain, my workspace, who has an account ending in alanapptools.com, they would be able to access this and view this. Now, this is a really good setting for if you have a web app built out for people in a company who are planning on using it. It runs based on their permissions, based on their account. They are the effective user, and you have it locked down so that the outside world can't access a single thing with your web app. Now, our other option here is anyone with a Google account. So anybody with an @Gmail or another workspace, custom domain, they are able to go to this web app in their browser. They're logged in, it's verified, they're good to go, and then they can see what's there and what's being served. So these are the basic settings for deploying a web app using a doGet function meant to be displayed in somebody's browser. Thanks for following along. I hope this video was helpful. I will see you next time.